Dogan High School. Time went by very slowly for the students. When they had already left the school, they saw tough guys in a military vehicle. All the girls of the school liked them. They weren't even hunters. They were just students of a specialized school. They looked at the logo and saw the sign. Maybe they were from the School of Heroes. It all started suddenly and without any foreshadowing. All the houses started burning. The sky changed color to red and portals opened up there. From these portals strange creatures started to come out. They were like dragons. No one understood what they were. According to the scientific facts that emerged later, in outer space, there was a world similar to Earth. But because of the catastrophe that happened there, the whole world was blown to pieces, and all the debris from their Earth flew to our Earth, and began to merge with the environment all over the planet. This phenomenon is called connection, and because of all this, the laws of nature of the other world and different worlds appeared on the Earth. So about 17% of the surface of the Earth has undergone changes, on which mankind has completely lost ownership. This most dangerous territory in the whole world became known as dungeons. The stronger the monster was, the more horns it had. These creatures had to be confronted, and to withstand these uninvited guests, even human superior coping skills were not enough. But fortunately the invasion of monsters from another dimension brought more than cataclysms. The innate limitations inherent in humans and the limitations of potential inherent in the nature of the Earth were shattered. And it affected all Earthlings, but the skill of each was different. And those who stood out from the rest learned to use their full potential through hardening training. They were all going to organize elite troops in order to bring the dungeon area back to the people. And they all became known as hunters. Now a new era has dawned. Dungeons and hunters. They were all very strong, and together they dealt with monsters with ease. The whole world shuddered. From their accomplishments and strength even before one generation had passed, schools were founded, in which future hunters were educated. It was the best educational school for teenagers. It was also the school that produced successful hunters for 25 years. There was a high school for heroes, renowned all over the world. These students even took an exam in a dungeon. They must have been confident in their abilities, if they managed to get in. What if they die inside there? KJAYAYA. What happened again? The girls were talking about how handsome they were. The half-elf was a whole other level. The boys didn't know who he was. He was often on TV. His father was a famous hunter and his mother was an Elysian. They said he was a genius. He was predicted to have a career as a top 5 ranker hunter 5 years after graduation. He already had 14 dungeon raids. But they're a lot less crazy than your temper. Who's got a temper? Ah. Ow. We were invited to karaoke tonight, by the way. I'm sorry, but you guys better go have a good time without me, said the guy. Hey, the midterms are over, aren't you going to act like this? You could have skipped today. Well, it can't be helped. Hang in there. Bye, see you next week. This guy had a very difficult situation. He couldn't pay his hospital bills for May and June. He was in credit and couldn't pay it off. He got a message to come to work because a new order had come in. A guy from the School of Heroes called him in. He thought he must have imagined it. How he didn't feel like working. He went into the abandoned underground. Their order taker was there. Are you messing with me? He promised to show them the most capable. He said he was the most capable. But they said they didn't come here to do charity work. They told them to get the little guys out of here right now and get a real man. Otherwise he's gonna cripple them all right now. You're a hunter, aren't you, boy? No, I'm not. You were a hunter. That's why you work for that half-wit uncle. What did the prick say? Boss answered. His guard said there's no point in talking. We should just break his legs and arms and he'd see for himself what he'd done wrong. His guard was 34 years old and a former silver-ranked guard. His number of raids before the bet was 81. He was told that if you value your hide, ask for forgiveness now. Oh? Now, that's a bit of a stretch, he said. I don't even know how to do that, he said, and blue flames began to appear around him. He was a freshman at Dogan High School. He was a dungeon smuggler. His number of illegal raids was 371, a heinous crime that threatens the world. Okay. Let's answer the question then, what is dungeon smuggling? Hunters still try very hard to clear dungeons to this day. If they are successful in clearing it and destroying monsters, they get a very large reward. But before they could bring this treasure to freedom, they had to pass a test, for among them were treasures of immense power. If they were found without permission, they could be used for dangerous and illegal purposes. Therefore, in the association of hunters, such treasures had to be checked and registered. They were also taxed accordingly. But there are those who break this rule. They've been hustling the guards, who don't want to pay heavy taxes, and sneak the treasure out of the dungeons when no one's looking. And if they weren't caught, society would be in chaos. So they were told that as soon as you see these bad people, call the association as soon as possible. The boss was getting scared, but he said you should be scared. He didn't quit because of an injury, but because he beat up a colleague. He doesn't look at age. How many times we've had to clean up dead bodies, said the guard. Beating up a co-worker? Now that's serious. So you're the real culprit. I'm not one to talk about the others, though. He said it was a pathetic creep who got in his way. And he just got rid of the trash. Get rid of the trash? That's what it meant. So he knew full well he was rubbish. The guard started attacking the guy and started punching him with all his might. But when he swung and started hitting him, he couldn't even hit him. You're also attacking with all your might, he said. Then I'll throw a light punch too. And when the guy kicked him, he broke everything and he couldn't move. Strange, looking at the way you look, I thought you'd be a little tougher, he said. The guard didn't understand what was going on. He thought he was standing in front of him, some little kid. But his reflexes, and the force of the blow to the chin that he missed, indicating it was a real pro. The guy who brought him in said it looks like you're starting to understand things now. And he's not the kind of guy you can beat in a fight easily. Boss said he's a good fighter, but he can't fight with one foot. That's impossible. The guard got his second wind and said, I see a couple of tricks you know, but you're just some smuggler. He peeled off his shirt and began to glow very strongly in green flames. His eyes lit up literally. After the merger, people acquired skills that transcended boundaries. We all had different figures and different abilities. Therefore the skills differed too. The same was true of the guards. They trained according to their skills. Each of them performed a different role. And among them were the so-called tanks. The boy was surprised at the way he began to glow. He realized that he had steel skin, a giant strength and build-up technique, specializing in sweeping team members from the dangers of the dungeon. They all walked ahead, facing the monsters in person. They had bodies so trained that they were not afraid of blows or bullets. And in the case of the top tanks, they could even become a kind of shield that could withstand missiles of any power, from the smallest to the most powerful. Sounds like a real hunter to me. He was filled with tremendous power and pounded his fists to the ground so that his boss flew off and trashed their workplace. He tried to aim all his punching power at the guy, but all his punches went right through the guy and he couldn't hit him. The guy was telling him that he wasn't stupid and he had no plans to jump into his traps. The physical force of the destruction is similar to that of an average truck. If one of those hits, it could shatter all his bones. The guy shouted for him to finish faster. And if he blows anything else up in here, he'll take a pay cut. The guard said it looked like his boss hadn't figured it out yet. Told him to tell him himself you can't beat a pro with your skills. The guy suddenly ripped off a piece of iron and said he thought it would be enough. Because of their superior resilience and endurance, all men used to think that tanks were simply invincible. But they were not. They had their weaknesses and their enemies. Those who were capable of concentrating enormous destructive power in a single point. Demiurge the dealer, for example, whose prowess is surpassed by several levels. When the guard tried to attack him, he hit him with all his might. He hit him so hard that he flew away. And he broke his shield. He asked where he learned this twisting technique. Twisting technique? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're thinking, but you're imagining things. Or maybe it wasn't. He's probably seen it before. My father. Most hunters were ranked according to ability and achievement, starting with a low rank of stone, copper, silver, gold. All nooks and crannies leading to dungeons must be strictly controlled. This is the official position of the Hunters Association and the government. Of course, that's not how it really works. And he always said to be careful not to die. Especially this time.